Okay, dear colleagues, we are back on air. It was just a short break, and I'm happy to introduce to you Ekaterina Kolesnikova, head of the School of Foreign Languages at High School of Economics. And let's not be deceived by the name. School here is used as the name of faculty. So basically, Dean of Foreign Languages, High School of Economics, Ekaterina Kolesnikova.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, for the presentation, for the invitation. And let me share my screen. Just one second. Dear friends, dear colleagues, let me introduce myself just in a couple of words. Just a second. My name is Ekaterina Kolesnikova, and I received my PhD in second language education from Russian Academy of Science in 2009, and for 13 years I have been working at tertiary level, first at Moscow City University, then I joined HSC University, where I first served as academic supervisor of the BA program Foreign Languages and Intercultural Communication. And currently I'm head of School of Foreign Languages, and I'm responsible for second language education at HSC University for the ultimate performance of our BA, MA and PhD programs. And we also administrate research and international cooperation in the fields of applied linguistics and language teaching, intercultural communication, and translation. So it is great to see all of you here today, and good afternoon from me. And Alexei, thank you so much for the warm introduction and for the invitation. I'm happy to have been invited and join this very interesting event. So thank you so much for organizing it. And actually my talk is on current trends in tertiary level English language education. And of course, it will be the case of Russia, and I'm going to talk about our digital experience. And here I have a short description of this talk. This talk will be on the digital transformation of language teaching happening under the influence of highly competitive platform-based solutions offered to educational institutions by IT companies. And it will definitely look at how we set strategic goals and how we make operational decisions when rapid global change is an ongoing process in language education. And I will also try to show a complex approach to embracing new technology and making fundamental changes in order to truly adapt to new realities and flourish. And a couple of words about HSC University and High School of Economics and our School of Foreign Languages. It is important because further on I'm going to talk about the changes that we have implemented over the past year in our curriculum, in the way we organize learning, in the way we work with individualized learning trajectories. So we are really big, and we have 350 teachers approximately only in Moscow, and we have more than 10,000 students, and we deliver around 100 courses, and we do English for general communication purposes, English for academic communication purposes, for business purposes, for specific purposes. And also we do academic writing, English for research and publication purposes. And we teach around 40 courses to students of BA programs. So the reason I have decided to include all that was that we really have experience of online language teaching environments and how we adapt to the new normal, how we adapt to the realities of digital teaching. And the question I will try to answer is, how will that change the way we teach languages? This new normal, and this is this COVID experience that we have been through. I'm sure that many of you know what this chart shows. This is SWOT analysis. But first of all, let me give a very brief explanation of the method I have used for this presentation. Basically, SWOT analysis helps with strategic planning, and S here stands for strengths, T for threats, W for weaknesses, and O for opportunities. And we know that threats and weaknesses are the internal factors, and the opportunities are the external factors. And this SWOT diagram basically helps to analyze a system through the prism of these factors. And I'm going to use this type of analysis now because it is especially useful when we are trying to decide whether we want to embark on a certain new venture by clearly visualizing the positive and the negative sides of it and decide on how we want to move forward. So I'm going to use this analysis this type of methodology to analyze how we teach English at HSC University. I will also rely on some of the presentations some of the webinars that I have watched when preparing for this talk by Andy Johnson, by Maria Davu, by Celia Antonu. I will be referencing to them further on. But first, let us look together at the weaknesses and strengths. And I actually do not want to separate them because, at HSC School of Foreign Languages, we stick to the values of positive and constructive approach to difficult and risky situations. And our philosophy is that please do not come with a problem, come with a solution, try to find it. So I will be commenting on the weaknesses, but simultaneously, I will be trying to expand on how we can actually turn these weaknesses into strengths. And I should also add that my discursive analysis will be based on the experience and of other universities and on some research that colleagues from European universities and from Russian universities have presented. So, I should say that the main weakness was the organizational weakness. We had actually not enough prior training in online teaching techniques when we faced the pandemic. And, here I'm not talking about technology enhanced learning. And in Russia, we actually have a lot of good theory and we have a lot of professional training programs on that, but as well as distance learning. We are rather good at that, but at that point, teachers needed practical skills needed and required to operate new platforms, to use specific types of software. And so I should say that prior training and all that was really very important. And the second problem was now a lack of the necessary digital tools to deliver classes. It took all the teachers and the students some time to access online platforms, to figure out all their functions like breakout rooms, waiting rooms, multi-share, and check the purposes and features and the benefits and the limitations that can be provided. And we, of course, needed to provide recommendations and instruction. And we tried to do our best to help fast. The function of a chat box for feedback and the private messaging and sharing resources and error correction and short responses to questions. So we considered all that and how that could be implemented. But still, we realized that we still need more digital tools in order to deliver classes. And then the need to provide teachers with the materials and resources for online classes. And here I should express gratitude to all the partners who helped us. I saw how helpful people were during the pandemic, and the value of sharing really helped us to get all the e-versions of course books that we needed and all the platform solutions. And all our partners responded very fast. But still, I could identify these three as weaknesses. And I'm not the only one. I will give reference. Some of the information is from webinars shared by colleagues. Another problem is that another weakness is that we cannot and we should not copy offline when we deliver classes online, but we sometimes don't know how we should actually do that. And I'm gonna reference here to a wonderful webinar. And some of the points, some of the bullet points I added myself, and I'm sure we can all continue the list. Mariah DeVoe mentioned that, length and format of lessons, online lesson design. How do we record attendance when we are online? And what do teachers need when they work virtually, and what should a virtual classroom look like, and how do we organize workspace? And Tatiana Vladimirovna, the previous speaker, she mentioned that our feeling of space differs a lot when we are online. And again, the manner of delivery, and that teachers are very good at nonverbal communication, and we are very good at using gestures and mimics in order to deliver their message. But here it's not that easy when we work online. And also, how do we provide guidelines for online etiquette? Online etiquette is a problem because at the times of transparency, that is just not easy, because every word is recorded, every picture is taken. I see that Natalia Haldarovna is doing it. Really, yeah, we are always transparent. We are always very open. So we need to understand how we go about online etiquette. And I could, of course, continue the list, and I'm sure all of you could, but I don't want to go into detail, because I would say that there are more important things that require our attention today. Yeah, this I actually I want to also mention that a very interesting webinar by Andy Johnson also names some of the difficulties of online teaching. And what we also noticed lack of online interaction skills that turned out to be very much needed during the pandemic. The problem was that, I should not say that was a problem, but what we figured out, our students are digital natives, so sometimes they were faster than their professors in understanding how the platforms work, and in they expected professors to adjust immediately and use diverse formats for online collaboration, for online communication. And that was particularly important for language classes, because for most students, learning communication is the goal of learning a language. So it turned out that the majority of the students were better experts in online interaction than their teachers were. And they really expected us to use all the features of online platforms during class, and they sometimes provided very useful recommendation. And another problem that I'm sure all of us faced, and a lot of teachers mentioned that it was very difficult to find balance between synchronous and asynchronous formats. I know that we have all figured out our approaches to how we calculate the course load when we are online, how we design timetable for classes because of the time difference, and because some of the international students went back home, and how do we set the right time for these classes. And we cannot imitate the same online, and we realize that online teaching needs so much flexibility. We really need to be much more flexible about the formats, about the timing, about balancing synchronous and asynchronous when we are online. But I would still identify that as a weakness that needs to be turned into strength. And we also identified, and Maria Davu, by the way, was very explicit in her webinar on this topic of online assessment, and how do we assess online? How do we track learners' progress? And, how do we do that during high stakes tests and exams? And how do we build formative assessment, alternative assessment, and summative assessment? How do we assess the skills, grammar, vocabulary, reading, writing? So those were all the new questions that appeared and that we were supposed to answer, and answer real fast. And how do we prevent cheating? And how do we make assessment experience real and meaningful? And at HSE University, we immediately learned the word proctoring, and we started using proctoring during the spring-summer session exams, because all the exams were administered, not all the exams, but all the high-stakes exams were administered with proctoring software that could ensure integrity of online assessment. And we used synchronous, and we used asynchronous automatic proctoring, which we verified the answers and the tests afterwards. So I should say that we learned a lot during our examination session that we held last summer. And I should here agree with all the speakers who have mentioned the problem of emotional support that students and teachers need when they're online, because, we felt the risk of not being able to offer support to students and to teachers. And also we noticed that the changes happening in the language teaching context were rapid, because we noticed that the environment is getting more and more competitive, and we are very happy to be partners with Skyeng, which is a very successful educational online platform. But we see how fast and how customized solutions offered by online platforms are, and classical higher educational institutions are not that fast. And our time to market, and when we need to implement a new change, when we need to innovate, we are just learning to be fast at that. And because we are about educational models, we are about designing educational frameworks for language teaching, for teaching other subjects, but we are not that fast with business models, with understanding how these business models will actually work in this new normal. And we also identified the problem of the digital divide, because not all of our students had access. Well, they all had access, but the quality of that access was sometimes different, and the digital divide, and that was a problem, because at first some of the students could be really left behind because of the lack of the appropriate devices, but we really tried to help them, and the university helped them. But again, that was a weakness that we identified in the system. And prolonged working hours, that was another problem, and lack of highly trained digital specialists ready to work in education, and prolonged work hours, because basically we lost sense of when work stops and when work begins, and it was difficult to understand where your work life ends and where your private life begins. So prolonged work hours, that was what all our teachers mentioned. And I'm going to use a wonderful quote. It's the result of the research carried out by Celia Antonou, and they figured out that among teachers of their university, they observed the feelings of uncertainty, the feelings of helplessness, and the pressure of constant need for innovation, change, and improvement. I particularly like the second part of this inference from the research, because constant need for innovation, change, and improvement, that can give a lot of stress, that can give a lot of pressure to teachers. And I should say that they all share that they really, they are really under a lot of pressure to come up with new ideas and solutions real fast. And but still, of course, what are the opportunities? I have been talking about all that just to come up with a solution. So what should we do? How do we make the system work? Like I mentioned at the beginning of my talk. So how do we work the system? Definitely, we will update our teaching practices and we will build new language teaching frameworks. Yeah, new frameworks are really needed. And one of the speakers today presented quite a lot of those. And we need to be very good at creating new, fair, reliable, and valid assessment tools, and that we will be able to use when we are not sharing the same space. And that very often requires new approaches and designing some of those from scratch. And we will, of course, reinforce and develop the culture of sharing. It is very important because it's important because teachers help each other. They provide each other with course materials. And I should say that the scale of opportunity here is hard to imagine. And I should say that a new culture of sharing has emerged. And we will have courses assembled from freely available online materials. And here we need to organize language teaching experts to develop adaptive language learning systems. And there are a lot of open resources that could be applied for that. And of course, we need to be real quick at designing programs to meet the training needs of teachers and building language education communities. We have a lot of those in our professional field, but I should say that each big school like ours, which has, like I mentioned, 350 teachers, we realized how much we really need community that is constantly communicating and supporting each other. And of course, we will build language. We will get more flexible in the way we use online formats. And again, here I want to share an approach from designed by Celia Antonou, like when she was sharing her experience of the way they tried to work in hybrid formats. So it's very important to find a balanced approach to online and offline activities. And they experimented with half and half on site, so half online and half on site. They experimented with sandwich, online session at the beginning of the term, then remote, and the final session to conclude a teaching period. And they also tried on-site while remote students catch up online. At HSC University, we also did a lot of that. And of course, we all experimented with online formats. So the idea of this talk was to use SWOT analysis to analyze the threats and the opportunities that the new normal has to offer. But there is another question that I asked myself at the end. So can we use the so-called trial and error approach and see how that works? And, I'm not sure, because this approach requires time. Unfortunately, we do not have time to make errors. We need time to research, to think quick, to come up with solutions. We need to share our ideas with each other. And it would be very important for us to come with the solutions that are gonna work fast. And I'm sure that that will help us to reinvent new models of language education together. Thank you so much. Should you have questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, thank you so much for the very interesting presentation, which has helped us to learn how the language programs and the work of an entire faculty can be changed and had to be changed because of the current situation. It seems that people are saying thank you in the chat, but there are no other questions. So thank you very much.